Hey, Independence Visitor Center, come on!
On our second day in Pennsylvania, we went to Philadelphia, and our first stop was the Liberty Bell Center, which had a cool museum for the bell and of course hosted the bell itself. The bell is one of our most valued symbols of liberty in the United States, along with a ton of other cool places and things to see in Philadelphia. Our next stops are Carpenter's Hall and the Second Bank of the United States.
You can ring my bell, ring my bell. We're at Carpenter's Hall right now, right behind me. Look at this.
We can go that way.
We walked all this way in the rain, and then they're closed.
Oh!
We're inside the Second Bank of the United States, and we're happy to be in here because we're out of the rain.
It's a little wet. Why don't you explain to the audience how wet it was, Julian?
It was so wet that Mary Poppins came and sang us all a song. The American Bald Eagle.
Well, it's been raining in Philadelphia for a while, so I don't know how good these shots are going to come out, but
We're a little bit damp.
We're a little bit damp, so and it's really hard to film outside with all the rain. So I don't know what you gonna do.
All right, we're at Independence Visitor Center. We're about to go on a constitutional walking tour.
Well, welcome you guys. My name is Miranda. I'm going to be your tour guide today. And so what we're going to be doing is just taking a big walk through historic Philadelphia. We'll see about 20 of Philadelphia's most historic sites. Philadelphia, we're here in Independence National Historic Park. I know it doesn't really look like your typical national park, but it is. And the National Park Service came in to help us preserve this land, to help us tell our story, because Philadelphia really is the birthplace of the United States. And that is because there were two documents that were written and signed right here in Philadelphia.
The Constitution and the Declaration of Independence.
There you go! See, you're gonna be great. Very nicely done. Yeah, the Constitution. Well, she knew that one was for her. Don't worry, there'll be plenty of chances to answer questions. Philadelphia was also the capital of the nation for 10 years, from 1790 to 1800. When we decided Washington, D.C. would be our nation's capital, nothing was there. It was a big swamp. So for the 10 years while they built Washington, D.C., Philadelphia was the official temporary capital. Now, who can tell me where the Liberty Bell used to hang?
City Hall. There.
Right there.
Right there!
I got it first.
The bell tower?
You'll see the bell that's up there right now. That is the Centennial Bell, which is the bell that replaced the Liberty Bell.
Real slow.
The Centennial Bell and actually the clock are working, but they are stopped right now because we are beginning a pretty major restoration of the whole bell tower area. The Liberty Bell cracked twice. It cracked the first time, the very first time we rang it. It was not even the first official ring, it was a practice ring. Now, we had ordered the bell from England. We did not have any bell foundries in the colonies at the time. So now we've got a broken bell and nobody who knows anything about bells. Well, a metal shop over on 2nd Street called Pass and Stow, you can still see that on the Liberty Bell, they took the bell, they decided to melt it down completely. And then they add a whole bunch of extra metals they've got lying around the shop, thinking that will make the bell stronger. Well, we know that did not make the bell stronger. That definitely weakened the bell forever, but they didn't know. So they recast the bell, hang it up in Independence Hall. We continue to use it, and then it cracks again. The second time the Liberty Bell cracked is the one you hear a lot of folklore about. I know I've heard it got dropped, I've heard it got shot, I heard it got struck by lightning. The truth is, we don't know exactly when or how the Liberty Bell cracked the second time. What we do know is that it was just a little crack at the base of the bell, and we continued to use it all the way until 1846. And in 1846, someone decided it would be a great idea to honor George Washington's birthday by ringing the Liberty Bell all day. That was not a great idea. The crack went from being a little crack at the base of the bell all the way up to the crown of the bell, and that is when we finally decided to retire the Liberty Bell. The Liberty Bell originally was just the Pennsylvania State House bell, as Independence Hall was the Pennsylvania State House. But it was a group of the abolitionists who nicknamed it the Liberty Bell. They saw the inscription on the bell which says, "Proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof." Well, the abolitionists said, hey, that's what we're trying to do, proclaim liberty to all the inhabitants thereof. And so they nicknamed it the Liberty Bell and used it as one of the major symbols of the abolitionist movement. And that is where it first got its major association with liberty, with freedom. Independence Hall, the big cheese. This is where the magic happened. It is the original building, built in 1732. It is the Pennsylvania State House, so it was the Capitol building of Pennsylvania. And it was right inside, right through those first floor windows there, that the Second Continental Congress met in the summer of 1776. Now, the Second Continental Congress, well, they're the men who voted for us to adopt independence. What was the date that they voted for us to adopt independence? July 4th, right?
I was raising my hand.
Well, you want it to be July 4th, right? That's the day we celebrate. Ah, you guys know in the back, yes, it was July 2nd that we held the vote to adopt independence. And John Adams even wrote a letter home to Abigail Adams that said July 2nd will be forever celebrated in this nation with fireworks and parades and everything that we do on the 4th. What happened is that we spent 2 days revising the Declaration of Independence. So the final draft was signed by John Hancock on the 4th of July. However, we didn't even read it publicly for the first time until July 8th. So it is sort of interesting that the 4th became the day we celebrate, but you know, that's how it happens sometimes. But something I think even more important happened inside Independence Hall. That was the summer of 1787, in the very same room where the Second Continental Congress was held. We had the meeting of the Constitutional Convention. Now, the Constitutional Convention, again, met for the entire summer of 1787. They argued for the entire summer of 1787. And finally, September 17th of 1787, they signed the Constitution. Well, this very important building site is the site of our nation's first lending library, founded in 1731. Any guesses who founded the first library? Benjamin Franklin, exactly. You can see him right up there. You'll notice he's looking a little strange.
Yeah.
He is wearing a toga. This was not a fashion statement of the time. But Benjamin Franklin said that if he was ever depicted in statue, he wanted to be dressed like the ancient Romans. He thought the Romans had the best system of government with a republic, and he wanted to honor them and their system of government by being dressed like them in his statue. All right, any guesses as to what this might be?
First Bank.
Nicely done. Yes, this is the first bank of the United States. Our first national bank. We used it to pay off debt from the Revolutionary War. We are here at the Betsy Ross house. The house runs along the garden, but don't picture it with a garden next to it, because the Betsy Ross house would have been a row home, so there would have been a whole bunch of homes like this one all smushed together. Now here's one for my younger friends. What do we believe Betsy Ross did? Made the first American flag, exactly. Now it is important to know, it is a legend that Betsy Ross created the first flag. That's not fact. We first heard her story in the later 1800s. One of her grandsons gave a speech here in Philadelphia, and in the speech he said that on her deathbed, Betsy Ross had told him she created the first flag.
So did I.
Well, exactly. I mean, there are those who are extremely skeptical of that story. On the other hand, it'd be a strange thing to make up. Now remember, the reason why there's so much speculation is that it would have been treason to create a new flag when, well, it was treason to create a new flag when we did. England had definitely not recognized our right to call ourselves our own country. So you can understand why there wouldn't be a lot of documents with that person's name on it. She could have been put to death. So again, most people believe it was Betsy Ross, but important to know that that is a legend and not fact.
So Benjamin Franklin once said, "A penny saved is a penny earned," and because of that, it's considered good luck to toss a penny on his grave, which we're at right now.
Right here.
Ready?
Yeah, I gave one.
Nice.
Got it. Bingo. Edgar Allan Poe National Historic Site. Yo.
Edgar Allan Poe, the famous American poet known for his great literary works such as the poem The Raven, was a resident of Philadelphia. The Edgar Allan Poe National Historic Site is located at his old house and has some cool tributes such as wall paintings and a raven statue.
Edgar Allan Poe. Nevermore! Edgar Allan Poe had several places in Philly, but this is the only one left. Alright, we're about to take the Spirit of 76 tour, and it's a ghost tour. And it's where people from the colonial era... God!
We all know about the Founding Fathers, right? Guys like Washington, you know who Washington is, right? Jefferson, Hamilton, they're all on our money. And Some people believe actually that these founding fathers are still around here in the afterlife. So hopefully we will catch a glimpse of some of them today. This is Carpenter's Hall, and Carpenter's Hall is where the first Continental Congress came to meet in 1774.
I'm so scared right now. There's colonial ghosts everywhere. I feel them.
Carpenter's Hall was also a bank, and in 1798 it was the site of the first bank robbery in America. Dun dun dun. All right, and it was an inside job. It was a man that thought to have been a man that ran the door here as porter and one of his buddies. Now he knew there was a safe in the basement, and they sneak in the middle of the night, and they happen to steal a large sum of money, $163,000 to be exact. Yowzers, all right? So they might have gotten away with it if they hadn't have been so stupid, because what they do is they steal the money from this bank, then they're caught depositing funds back into the very same bank, which is how they got found out. So don't do that, all right? So, some people believe it's the bank robbers coming back to avenge themselves in the afterlife today. So if you walk in, people claim they feel a drop of temperature when they enter. Some people believe that they hear floorboards creaking both upstairs and down. There's a story in the 1970s about a guy who lives here named Brian O'Connor, and he's living upstairs. His family are historians, and they're doing some renovations. He's home alone one night. And as he's upstairs on the second floor here watching TV, he starts to hear creaking behind him. He turns around, no one is there. Suddenly he's watching TV. I don't know what was popular in the 1970s, but the television channels start to keep changing, and he doesn't have the remote. He can't understand why. So who could it be? Could it be one of these founding fathers? Could it be Patrick Henry to reinsert himself as the first American? Or maybe one of the bank robbers coming back to get vengeance in the afterlife? I don't know.
On the ghost tour, they give everybody a glow stick, and this is mine, and I'm using it to ward off ghosts, colonial ghosts, because the colonial ghosts are, the fiercest ones.
What's really cool is that this building right here is a replica of the building in Manhattan that they used to film Ghostbusters. And you'll notice that instead of gargoyles, there are eagles. Whoa. That's the only difference between this building and the building in New York. But it's really cool how there's two identical buildings about 2.5 hours away from each other.
In the mid-1800s, this was the site of a wedding. All right, a wedding was being held here. And the bride-to-be was getting ready for the big day up on the second floor with a few of her bridesmaids giggling with excitement. The groom is downstairs below, knocking back a few beers with his buddies. Well, we don't know how, but a lantern fell on the train of the bride's dress. And when the bridesmaids went to go extinguish it, they caught on fire, and the bride and the bridesmaids all burned alive. All right, so the building was badly damaged, and the city eventually leveled it the following year. We built this city tavern in 1975 to celebrate our bicentennial. And believe it or not, weddings are still held here today. And whenever the bridal party comes out here in the garden, the photographer claims to take a picture. He always says that he sees another bride in the viewfinder of the camera. But try as he might, he is never able to capture her on film. This old building here is the home of a guy named Samuel Powell. He was the last mayor of Philadelphia under British rule and the first mayor under the new creation of the United States. And he lives here. And it's no secret, he was a party animal. He liked to have a good time, and he entertained the likes of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, always liked to party, and the Marquis de Lafayette. So they all partied here, and some people believe that these founding fathers are still reveling in the good times in the afterlife. So it's still residential today, just upstairs though. The first floor is a museum, and we've heard some ghost stories about the residents that have lived here throughout the ages. In the 1950s in particular, there was a couple that lived here, a historian and his wife. And the wife became very startled one night when they were in bed, and she swore that she heard voices speaking downstairs. Her husband told her to stay in the bedroom. He goes around the entire building and can't find anyone. Who could it be? She swears that the one door in the back leading to the garden, which is still around today, every time she closed it, she'd come back downstairs and she'd feel the draft. The door would be wide open, and she wouldn't know who did it. Well, one day, the husband has had enough. He comes home and his wife is petrified. She's on the first floor and she's getting ready for some friends to come over for tea when she said that out of the corner of her eye, she saw a woman dressed in a beautiful lavender gown. This woman had a fan in her hand, looked at the wife, smiled, and then vanished. But she was so taken by the image of this woman that she wanted to know who it could be. So she pored over some history books, and she kept looking at portraits when suddenly she found the woman. That's her. She looked at the name. The name read Peggy Shippen. Has anyone heard of Peggy Shippen before? You've probably heard of her husband, Benedict Arnold, right? Yeah, the great American trader. He's known for trading war secrets during the American Revolution, and him and his wife, Peggy, were forced to spend the rest of their lives in exile in England. Some people believe that this is the last place Peggy was ever truly happy before she got kicked to go back to England.
You liking these ghost stories so far?
Dude,
They're pretty nuts.
these ghost stories are nuts. Nuts, dude. I saw like 8 ghosts already, dude. I'm serious.
So this is Washington Square Park, all right? And if you plant your feet firmly on the ground, you are probably standing over someone.
Oh my
Believe it or
God.
not, there are 2,000 dead bodies in this square.
What?
So they are, about 1,000 of them are soldiers from the American Revolution, both British and American. And many are, convict, sailors, just poor people who didn't have enough money to be buried anywhere else. So if any of you Philadelphians are here and come back sunbathing or eating a little picnic, we can just think about that next time. All right? So there you go. So a place with this many dead bodies, it's got to have at least one good ghost story, right? Right? Ah, there you go. So legend has it that there is a hooded figure that haunts Washington Square. Now, there have been many reports throughout time on who this figure could be, but many report to it as a nurse by the name of Leia, who was around during the Revolutionary War. And she would tend to the soldiers on the battlefield. And some believe that the Banji form were so strong that she's still here protecting her boys from beyond the grave. So, one story we hear about is a police officer patrolling the square one night, and he sees this hooded figure and calls out, "Hey, are you all right?" No response. He asks again, "Are you okay?" Still nothing. He goes over, removes the hood. There's nothing there. Oh my God. So who could it be? Is Leia still here today? Tread carefully as we continue. Security has this building Independence Hall on video surveillance. They get very creeped out one night when they see a figure roaming around the halls long after closing hours. So they dispatch one of their guys inside to go check things out. He's got a walkie-talkie in one hand, flashlight in the other. He walks around, downstairs, doesn't see anything, goes upstairs, still sees nothing, comes back downstairs. He radios to the controls, all clear. But when he gets back on the other end, frightens him. He gets back. "Dude, what are you talking about? The guy's standing right in front of you." So who could it be? All right, I don't know. I can tell you that in addition to the Founding Fathers, this was also a hospital during the Revolutionary War, and it said some men died inside. So there you go, all right? The most historic and apparently haunted building on our tour.
Okay, that last ghost story that he just told, that about the security guard, that one was my favorite, my second favorite after the one about the bride and the fire. But, because he's just like, "Oh, I didn't see anything." But then it was right in front of him the whole time while the other security guard buddies were watching him on the camera. Now that creeped me out. That was awesome.